it's the root cause that I'm trying to tackle right now, which is my posture through Pilates. And then that's when I also add in with the changes in my diet. Cutting sugar from my diet is essential. Back then, imagine Ryan, like back then, I never had time to really focus on the breakfast that I used to take. I had donuts, all those sweet stuff, just because I was running late for meetings. But these days, I literally make like yogurt with fruits, chia seed pudding, all those things. And I don't have like all this desserts or sweet stuff in my food. I intentionally curate the food that I eat. And all because I am now more aware of what I eat. So on my Instagram, I show my before after, and I am personally, I am really happy with how I look like now compared to before. So I know that this wellness journey is showing results, and that is why I feel like I want to share it with others as well.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Truth to Heals podcast. I'm your host, Ryan Anthony Hernandez, and today I have a special guest coming all the way from Malaysia, but then traveled and started a new life, a journey over in Dubai. Our guest today is documenting her wellness journey and is even vibrant with her podcast. Today, I want to introduce you to our guest, Renee. Renee, welcome to the podcast. How are you doing today?
Thank you for having me, Ryan. I'm good. Thank you.
It's an honor to have you on the podcast. And I mentioned a few things in your introduction, coming from Malaysia, going to Dubai. But then I also mentioned that you are one, documenting your wellness journey, but also that you have a podcast. Before we really get into your backstory, I wanted to take a moment to highlight to the audience your podcast so that they can maybe tune in. So, to get us started, can you share with us what is your podcast and what is the vision that you have for it?
Yeah, sure. So my podcast is called T42 Podcast. Just a bit of background. How I started with the podcast is basically me and my partner Amanda. So we both are Malaysians living in the UAE. I live in Dubai and Amanda live in Abu Dhabi. So that's just an hour away from Dubai. So the thing is that when I moved here to Dubai, surprisingly, Amanda also moved to Abu Dhabi about the same time. We didn't see that coming. So we both Malaysian, but we've been living abroad. For Amanda, she moved from the UK. So when we moved here to the UAE, that's when we started to meet up again. And we are like, hey, you know what? Maybe we should start doing something together. Like, we talk together, we talk on the phone. Maybe perhaps rather than we just, yapping to one another, perhaps we should document this conversation. And that's how the podcast started. And we said that, instead of just talking nonsense or just chit chatting, perhaps what we can do is to share our personal experiences to others. And somehow that can add value to others as well. So essentially, the podcast is to help other women who can relate, to our story. So, if you want some tips in terms of wellness, about how to take care of yourself, about self-love, self-care, as well as living abroad tips. So that's how what we share in our podcast.
Okay, so it is called what again?
So it's called Tea for Two. So basically, two girls having a chat with their tea, and we talk over our tea. That's all.
And what are some things that you've spoken about so that if someone in the audience is like, right now, as you mentioned, like some of the themes you've spoken about, they can like go back and listen to one of those episodes?
Oh, so to be honest, this is something that I just find out as well. Okay, essentially, we have so many topics that we've covered, but because Spotify just shared 2025 wrap up, so the top episode for the year is on relationship. There's just one
Ooh.
particular episode. Yeah, I can share with you, the link after this. But basically, that's our top episode. We're quite surprised actually because the intention of to start this podcast is just talk about self love, wellness, and all that. But then again, when it comes to wellness, it's not just about your fitness. It's also about everything else as well. When we talk about wellness, it also covers relationship, building all these connections. So surprise, surprise, the relationship topic is our number one.
Okay, okay, well that's all connected and I'm loving it. And for those in the audience, take note, it's called Tea for Two and it's available where?
So it's available on Spotify and also Apple Podcasts.
Excellent. So thank you for introducing us to the podcast. And now I would like to dive into a bit of your history and your story. So earlier we've talked about you coming from Malaysia. Can you tell us what was life like in Malaysia and what brought you all the way over to Dubai?
Okay, I like this question. So, Ryan, to begin with, I have to say that I'm grateful that you reach out to me, to have this podcast. If you were to ask me this 1 year ago, oh, probably say, I'm sorry, Ryan, I don't have any story to tell you. That was my life like back then in Malaysia. So, back in Malaysia, I was basically a corporate girly where I basically do 9 to 5. By profession, I'm a chartered accountant. Basically, do finance and strategy. So I'm in oil and gas industry. So basically, I just work 9 to 5, and that's basically my life. I was not into social media. I wouldn't do all this podcast thing. I wouldn't have much story other than financial stories, I guess. So that's pretty boring. But I still remember one day when I came back from work and my husband was at the living room and he said, "Babe, there's something that I gotta tell you." And I was like, "Yeah, sure, but why do you sound so serious?" "Well, I got this job opportunity and we're moving to Dubai." I was speechless. I mean, what are you talking about? Of course, I was happy for him, but how about me? How about my dreams? How about my career? I have my own plans too. And we only had like a month to decide if we wanted to take that opportunity or not. So, long story short, I decided to take a sabbatical. And that's how I moved to Dubai, just to be with him and just to support him. And then that's how I started my journey to learn about social media. Of course, moving to Dubai for me, it was not something that I see coming. So it was more of a shift of it's like I had to pivot, from what I used to do 9 to 5. I had my whole entire system, how to operate on a daily basis to not knowing where to start. So having a free time is not something that I was used to. I had to plan everything all over again. Especially when my husband goes to work, I felt lonely. And that's when I had to, restart again. What are the things that I need to do? What are the things that I need to learn? So, briefly, that's how, I started to build my new life in Dubai.
Well, it's funny that you mentioned that you weren't like a year ago. If I were to ask you about the podcast, you would say, "Oh, I don't have any stories." You do accounting, and you were saying that's not really the story that you would like to be talking about in a
Not at all. Not at
podcast.
all.
But I think we did meet off of social media. I think it was, correct me if I'm wrong, Threads.
Oh, yes, we did. Yeah.
Yeah, so it's been a very powerful tool, but I'm curious because I mean, you haven't really been involved with social media. Is it all like your whole life you were never involved? Like before, you never into like MySpace or
I mean,
Friendster?
let's be honest. Like, obviously, I have all that. I started, having that, but it's very personal. Obviously, like I would never be, like open up to others. I would make it private. And I mean, my definition of Instagram is more of a personal photo album rather than trying to showcase what I have, what I'm trying to help others. Like if you notice, Ren Reset is more, public, where I'm sharing with others about what I'm currently doing. It's so different than what I used to do before.
And I ask this question because like the vision that you're or what you're doing it, you're documenting your wellness journey. You're also documenting how your life is like being in Dubai. It's almost kind of is like a contradiction because you're not there was a period where you were not being socially active online, but now it's like boom, the door has
I
opened.
know, right?
Would you say that coming to Dubai has allowed for personal growth? And if so, in what ways?
Oh yeah, definitely, definitely, Ryan. I mean, if I can bring you back to, like, first few months when I was here, I was still not open to, showing others about my life. So I started to do rent reset in the beginning, but I refuse to show my face on social media.
Oh.
I was still in the mindset where, what would people say about me? Wait, hang on. I'm supposed to be professional, right? Like, I cannot be in a different persona. Why would I? I wasn't sure. I had been in that persona as a finance person for a very long time, that I was not out of that bubble yet. That was the first few months. And then Dubai made me open my eyes, open my mind to see there's so many things out there, especially when I go for social networkings. I met so many people here, and I see that you have to put yourself out there to be seen. And that's when I started to show myself one step at a time, of course. And at that point of time, even when I started to think of a podcast, I it was not an overnight decision, obviously. I was not used to speaking in front of a camera other than meetings through Zoom, obviously, but it's different, right? Like how you talk in the meetings and how you talk to a camera. I wouldn't have imagined myself posting things on social media, giving tips, or even doing podcasts. So it's very different. But one thing for sure, it's about changing mindset about how I look at things. Because if I were to be like how I used to be back then, I wouldn't be able to reach out to so many people. I wouldn't be able to how like what I'm doing now, like reaching out to others on threads, on Instagram to do all this podcast. I wouldn't be able to do that. So it's all about changing mindset, I would say.
And how long have you been in Dubai for?
Oh, it's only over a year now, but I think there's so much has changed. At least, yeah, within myself, I feel like there's so much I've changed. Yeah.
And what is it that has helped you to change? Is it being in a different country? Is it different routines? Is it different friendships? Or is it maybe something else?
Well, I would say that, it's a combination of everything, to be honest. Like, when I moved here, it's about the environment that you're in, the people that you meet. Let's be honest, back in Malaysia, I was surrounded by people who are mostly Malaysians, local, right? The people that I work with. They're smart people, professionals. Moving here, I am surrounded with people who are from diverse background, from people all over the world. And you exchange ideas, you exchange perspectives that open your mindset in a different way. So it's not necessarily we're talking about just finance and numbers and strategy or business, but we talk about other things. And that itself made me open my eyes to see things differently and how you can grow differently, not necessarily just your 9 to 5, but how you build your personal skills in, connecting with others. And I think that itself, people around you, the environment that you're in, push you to be that way. And that helps with my personal growth, definitely.
Beautiful. And something that I wanted to now kind of dive into is because you're documenting not only your journey in Dubai, but also your wellness. What are some things, if someone's going to be listening to your podcast or checking out your Instagram, what are some things that they might find about you that they don't know about right now?
Well, how I started my wellness journey is that Back then in Malaysia, when I was trapped in my 9 to 5, little that I know that I was having, well, let me just, share with you that, okay, I wasn't overweight. I never had any health issues. But back then, I always complain about my face with wrinkles, or maybe I had puffiness on my face. And no matter what I tried doing back then, it would never address the issue. And to a point, I realized that maybe I was born that way. I was born with puffiness on my face. Like I couldn't do anything. Back then, I went for HIIT classes, I went for cardio, but nothing could address my issue. But when I moved to Dubai, that's when I had a lot of time to literally sit down and learn about wellness, about, not just going for physical classes, but also food intake. But when it comes to physical classes, that's when I first started my Pilates class. Well, I've always wanted to try that back then in Malaysia, but I didn't have time for it. So I thought, hey, in Dubai, I've got time. Why not I start my Pilates classes? So the first 6 months, I finished 100 classes of Pilates. And that's when I realized that, wait, hang on. Now I realized that with all the movements, the exercises that I did, that's when I realized that I've always had posture issue. And because of the posture issue, hence it has caused puffiness on my face, as well as wrinkles, that are showing on my face. So it's the root cause that I'm trying to tackle right now, which is my posture through Pilates. And then that's when I also add in with the changes in my diet. Cutting sugar from my diet is essential. Back then, imagine, Ryan, like back then, I never had time to really focus on the breakfast that I used to take. I had donuts, all those sweet stuff, just because I was running late for meetings. But these days, I literally make like yogurt with fruits, chia seed pudding, all those things. And I don't have like all this desserts or sweet stuff in my food. I intentionally curate the food that I eat. And all because I am now more aware of what I eat. So on my Instagram, I show my before after, and I am personally, I am really happy with how I look like now compared to before. So I know that this wellness journey is showing results, and that is why I feel like I want to share it with others as well.
Well, when you said the word posture, that you're trying to fix your posture, I felt myself
Straighten up yourself as well, right?
yeah, fixing my posture. But then when you said donuts, I felt my stomach starting to grumble a little bit. So but you also said something which I think it's very worth noting. Uh, Trapped in a 9 to 5 when you were in Malaysia. Tell us about that.
Well, to be honest, Brian, I wouldn't use the word trap back then because I never had the option. For me, to be honest, I never complained about my job. I actually fell in love with my job over time. Like, to be honest, I loved it. In fact, the time when my husband said that we're moving to Dubai, I was not sure anymore. For me, I wanted to continue and work. Then again, I can't do long distance relationship with my husband, right? It's 7 hours away by flight. So it's hard for me. But 9 to 5 back then, it wasn't like I said, I wasn't complaining, but I still remember at one point of my life in my mid 30s. Now I'm in my late 30s. So in my mid 30s, I still remember that one night when I came back from work, I I had this in my mind. Wait, hang on, this cannot be it. Am I running on an autopilot? Because it's literally 9 to 5, but not necessarily I finish at 5. In Malaysia, we work till late, maybe 9 to 8, and then you drive back home, and then you'll be home late at 9, and then you take shower and then you sleep. The next morning, you wake up again 6 o'clock in the morning. So I was basically doing things on repeat. And that cannot be it. That's on my mind. And by that point of time, I knew that I had no option. So you know what? I just had that thought, but whatever, the day is going to continue again anyway. Little that I know that few months down the road, then my husband said that, hey, we're moving to Dubai. And so that's how it started. But yeah, I mean, it was literally just working 9 to 5, and I was proud with what I was doing. I defined my success through my job title, and that's how I defined success back then. And then it was just on repeat. And only on weekends I get to recharge, and I was only looking forward for year-end trip, just for holidays. That's all. And it's been like that for the past 15 years.
Okay. Sometimes it's hard to adjust when going into a whole new environment, but here we see that you have excelled and you've opened up and you even started a podcast. So now I want to get into the podcast and how did you open the door? How did you get the idea? I know you were talking about you having this friend and you would chit chat, but how did it come where you got together and said, "Hey, let's do a podcast"?
Yeah, so I still remember. So my friend and I, Amanda, we both are Leos. So it happened during our birthday celebration, and it was actually recommended by my husband, who's also a Leo. So three of us celebrated our birthdays together because all of us are celebrating in August. It was during summer last year, and he said, Renee and Amanda, I think you guys should start something together. I think there must be something that the two of you can start doing. And we're like, what? I don't think we can do anything. Yeah. And I was clueless. I was still on my sabbatical. And I was not 100% here in Dubai. My mind was not 100% here in Dubai. I was still thinking about, what? I miss my job. How's Malaysia? How's my team doing? I wasn't 100% here. And when he said that, that's when we said, okay, we'll think about it. But few months down the road, end of 2024, that's when we said, you know what, we keep on talking together, and the closest thing that we can do is to come up with podcasts. And why podcast is because so I go for my morning walk every day because I collect 10,000 steps every day, and that's part of my wellness routine. While I walk, I listen to podcasts. And that's when I realized that a podcast is, something that is, it's easy to do. Like, that's the closest thing that I can think of. And so that's how we started our podcast. And how we did it was the first few episodes. Well, the first episode, I started to do it first. It was a solo episode. And I can tell you it was so awkward. Like talking alone, like I never did that before, obviously. So that was just a solo episode. And then Amanda came into the picture and she said, okay, let's start doing it together. And from there, then I reach out to the friends that I've met here in Dubai to, have like an interview, chat with them, the locals in Dubai, just to ask them about like, the life in Dubai. And then I met people from Abu Dhabi, and then we start talking about Abu Dhabi. And then that's when I realized that, wait, hang on, if I can do in Dubai, and then I reach out to my friends in Malaysia, and a couple of them, agreed to do that, which I'm so grateful. These are all the things that I never thought about, by the way. It just happened along the way. And then the recent one is I reach out to other people from other countries. And that's how I met you as well, Ryan. Like, these are all the things that just came like along the way. And yeah, that's how it evolved.
Well, talking about evolution, I believe you said earlier that you couldn't record your face. Is that correct?
Oh, yeah. No, yeah.
How did you change that mindset? What? Tell me
Oh,
what was the transformation, girl? Like I gotta know.
okay. So it's so funny. Wait, I'm trying to recall. So, it's so awkward to just put a phone in front of you and, record yourself.
Yeah.
And what I did was I tried doing that for 21 days. So why 21 days is because I read Atomic Habits, and you can start anything, you can do anything. It's just that you have to give yourself 21 days. After 21 days, it's just become, part of your lifestyle. So I thought, okay, just start small. I can try to talk in front of a camera for 20 seconds, and then from 20 seconds, maybe a minute. And then from there, transform to me being comfortable talking on camera. And I still remember on TikTok. So obviously, like before this, I would never use TikTok. Like, I don't see the reason why I should use TikTok. But because after learning social media, I find that if you want to grow your audience, you just have to go through all the social media platforms. So I remember using TikTok, live TikTok. And the first live was so awkward. I didn't know what to say. And I went live for a minute and I switched off. And then over time, I think I took about like a month or so to get used to it, try to engage, try to respond to their questions and things like that. And that's when I realized that, hey, now I am actually comfortable to speak in front of camera.
Okay. Yeah, I mean it's hard. I mean, okay, let me ask you this. When you started doing the 20-second videos of recording yourself,
Yeah.
was that just for you or would you upload it as well?
So the first few recording, obviously, I did not upload that because it looks so awkward. Like I was not like camera ready. It was more of like me checking and auditing myself. Only after like a couple of like I said, I tried over a month, and then after that, I feel more comfortable, and I can accept how I sound, how I look at myself, and then I start posting it. So yeah.
Did you have a lot of bloopers?
Oh, of course. Of course, the first few times, yeah.
And oh, I'm asking that because there are areas in life where a person has a fail, a blooper, or it seems like, you know what, I'm not good at this. What's the point? I give up. What helped you keep going?
Hmm, that's good. So for me, is the big why. So understanding my why, why am I doing this? Why am I even entering this industry, this social media, in this whole thing? Why? Because I want to change to a new Renee compared to the 9 to 5 Renee back then. And throughout my wellness journey, I realized that you are not just in your one persona. You can have different persona depending on what you want. Do not limit yourself just because yes, you are a manager in finance and strategy. And is that all? Is that how you define yourself? Is that how you introduce yourself when you meet people? I don't want that anymore. So what if it's taken away from you? Now, how do you introduce yourself? Today I can tell you, Ryan, that yeah, I have a podcast, I have my wellness journey, I have so many other things other than my job title. And that is my why. And in order for me to have that, that's how I need to groom myself and to be able to do all these things. So that keeps me going. If I was not comfortable in speaking in front of the camera, then I have to close that gap, all because then eventually I can be a podcaster or I can do my wellness business, all those things. So understanding your big why is essential.
Thank you so much for sharing that. I think it's just so inspiring to see the
Mhm.
growth in all of my guests. I'm always inspired. I wanted to take a moment to go back because there was the version of you in Malaysia working 9 to 5, but also there's more things about you, of course, that we don't know about. That's your life. But then you also bring up this new version of yourself with the wellness, with the podcasting, with the documenting your life. Can you tell me what is one thing that you love about your old version, your Malaysian version, and what is one thing that you love about this new version of yourself?
Sure. So In my previous version, I would say that I'm very organized person. I organize everything and I plan. I'm such a well. I'm a business planner, so I do financial planning, business planning. So by nature, I am a planner. I plan things in advance. I know what I'm going to do 5 years ahead at least. So that was me back then. And moving here to Dubai has changed me um, in a way where not necessarily you have to be a planner anymore because there's so many things that are unknown for me. I don't know, what's going to happen. Am I going to move to another country after this? I don't know. But one thing for sure is to be more open in and being present in appreciating what you have now rather than keep on looking forward, keep on planning, for the future. And you tend to forget what you have today. So the version of me now is to be more mindful and more present, to appreciate all these things that I have today. Back then, I can tell you that I don't see all that. I often miss seeing all those small things that I could be grateful for and always look into the future. I feel like, future is more important. I have to make sure that everything is well planned. If not, I'm going to be, worrying all the time. But today, I feel like I learned to let go of all that because not necessarily that you have to plan every single thing in your life. Sometimes you let go and let God do it for you. But always look at all the small things around you and be present, be mindful, and be appreciative with all the things around you.
Thank you so much. And now this brings me to my concluding question, which I ask all of my guests, and that is Renee, what is your truth that heals?
Well, if I were to relate it to my journey here moving to Dubai, like I mentioned earlier, it's a it's a that pivot moment in my life that I didn't see that coming. So the first few months moving here was quite challenging for me. I still remember, like I mentioned to you, like I'm such a planner. Every single thing, I need to make sure that it's well planned. But when I couldn't plan, I felt like constantly worrying about things. The first few months, I was worrying all the time. That's when I also realized that I took a moment to pause and I said, I need to let go of this. I need to let go of all this worry and let God help me with it. And that made me realize that, so many things that are nice around me that I often missed out. And what it taught me is that sometimes you need to have that faith in life, that everything is going to work out, even if you don't have like a certain plans for it, which is fine. But always learn to look at the positive things. Try to put your mindset, to be more positive rather than having constant worry. Because when you worry all the time, obviously, then you will manifest all the negative things in life, right? But if you try to look at it in a positive way, have faith that, everything's going to be okay, life changed and you realize that everything seems to be okay actually. And that's when I realized that, hey, I'm actually enjoying this. Why am I worrying? There's nothing to worry actually. I should appreciate all these little things. And for me, that's when, you know I what I learned is to let go and have that faith that everything is going to be all right.
Well, thank you so much, Renee, for sharing your truth that heals on the podcast and for sharing your whole entire journey. I think it's just so.
Sure.
Now I want to go traveling again. It's been a while. I would love to travel
You
again. So
should.
maybe I'll go to Abu Dhabi or
Yes, please.
or Malaysia. Who knows? We'll see. But
Oh, yeah.
I gotta save up some money. So before
You should. Yeah.
we conclude, can you remind us again the name of your podcast and where people in the audience can go listen?
Sure, of course. So, for those who are listening, if you want to listen to my episodes, which is on wellness and also about relationship, there's so many things that you can relate to. I believe, especially for a female audience, you can go to T42 podcast, and it's available on Spotify and Apple Podcast.
Thank you so much. And for those of you who are in the audience and you're still here, please go ahead and subscribe, especially if you're new to listening. Subscribe on YouTube, follow on Spotify, Apple Podcasts. Please leave a rating as that helps out something somehow. I don't know, but it'll help. And also, if you'd like to help me to continue doing podcasts like this, you can do so by buying me a coffee at buymeacoffee.com/truth7. All of your contribution helps me to continue keeping this podcast going, to pay the bills, and to have awesome guests like our guests today. And again, to Renee, thank you so much for being an awesome guest here on the Truth That Heals podcast.
Thank you for having me.